Sir, can you hear me, sir?
Sorry.
Is my voice audible, sir? Is my voice
Like a
audible,
feeble.
sir, for you?
Yeah, it's better now. Yeah.
Okay, okay. Okay, sir. Okay, sir. So shall we start, sir? We are in live now.
Okay. Should I start or
Okay, sir.
should I wait for the
Uh,
participants?
I yes, sir. Actually, they are joining.
Okay.
So we'll start and we'll start. I will just welcome you and then you can start the session. So very good afternoon to all the participants, and we are happy to welcome you all for session 2 of day 1 about concept of cloud computing and cloud-based ERP. And we are happy and honored to welcome our guest speaker today, Mr. K. Manish Kumar, Advisory Consultant, IBM Chennai. Our speaker has started his career as software engineer in Hexaware Technologies for more than 3 years, and he played the role of developer analyst in Allied Solutions, Aon Hewitt for 2 years, and he was working as integration consultant at Cloudata, and now he is currently working as advisory consultant in IBM. He has been honored with several awards: Spot Award and Ace Award in Hexaware, and Gold Award for Innovation, and Q4 2019 Strong Eminence and Excellence Spark Award at IBM. And cloud computing has become the ideal way to deliver enterprise applications and the preferred solution for companies extending their infrastructure or launching new innovations. His interest and work experience towards the cloud platform will definitely give us a knowledge about cloud computing and cloud-based ERP. I'll hand over the session to Mr. Manish Kumar. Sir, over to you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Um, so yeah, thanks for inviting me for this session on cloud computing. Let me share my whatever I have. Yeah. So introducing about myself, as you already have a brief introduction about me. Am I audible and visible for the participants, Dhanalakshmi?
Yes,
Can
sir.
you confirm
Yes,
that?
sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Fine.
You are audible.
So I completed my diploma in engineering in IT and diploma in computer engineering. And after that, I I was like recruited to in one of the top IT institution, IT company called Hexaware Technologies. There I started my career. Uh, so primarily, like I was initially a .NET developer. I have been trained in that, and at the time, and those period, uh, there was a significant change or change in the paradigm for from the conventional programming to a new technologies such as mobile computing and cloud computing. So my interest in cloud computing was I want to go into something developing at least an application on the cloud or utilize my .NET experience to develop some cloud application. So my interest was tending towards that. Then suddenly I got an opportunity to work on ERP. So traditionally ERP have been on premise. But this was a significant new at that time. Um, I will be talking about ERP called Workday here. So that was like just kicking in, and I got an opportunity to get trained and start my work, or rather, I would say that to start my career with the cloud based ERP. So my total experience is with that ERP. I have around 7.5 years of working with that ERP, and it's actually a SaaS-based ERP. We will talk more about it um, in our session today. And uh, As you know that ERP has many modules defined. So I primarily work on HCM and finance. Um, Before I start this session, I know that like running through the PPTs um, and telling about what is cloud computing and um, would be a bit boring. Rather than what I would like to do, what will be more beneficial would be like just a background of cloud computing um, and talking about the ERP and the cloud computing and what are the latest going on the cloud. I would like to talk upon that. Um, so actually, we over a past decade, we have been hearing this term cloud computing, like one of the emerging what we whenever we go and talk with the industry guys, and we ask like what is trending now these days. So they along with some other technologies like AI or machine learning or mobile computing. So you would also heard the term as cloud computing. What I consider is that this is not a uh, okay, this is just a decade. This might be in popular a decade old, but the way it has paced up, the way it has covered the industries, the way it has covered the enterprises, large scale, mid scale, or small scale enterprises, you would be surprised to see that you can see here in my slide that yes, stats by Forbes, one of the leading uh, statistical company, has revealed that by 2020 we have been like uh, 83% would be on cloud. But I consider this figure as more than 90. There are different opinions on it, but what we see is that around 90% we are actually on cloud. For example, this software which I'm like which we are using to do the video conferencing or sort of like webinar, it's actually a cloud based software. You start your day with checking your mails. It is a cloud. You use Google Cloud, and just open your phone and check it out. Like there would be like most of the applications are like cloud based. So like we are almost 90 to 94% like covered in the by cloud. So there is no thing to say that it is something emerging, or might be like there are many changes going on in this cloud computing era. There are new collaborations or fusions coming in, like we are putting AI into cloud, we are putting big data into cloud, we are providing more hardware solutions. Like for example, you would like we will talk about the hybrid cloud and all. So we are utilizing open source cloud. So there are new and new fusions and collaborations happening in the cloud world. So that is happening, but saying that cloud computing is and new, it's completely, I would say that that statement is not correct. You could see the revenue, like it's like around 331 by 2022. That's just by public cloud. Uh, so yeah, this is a significant figure of revenue estimates, um, and of course there is a lot way ahead to go. So whenever we had, I remember like when some few 6 or 7, 8 years back, when I was into this cloud-based ERP. So when we talked about it to the customers, uh, uh, like uh, when we sell our product, when we sell our cloud product to them, they first raise the question of security and privacy. So we have come a long way ahead, and addressing these issues of security and privacy. Like uh, whomsoever, like the customer, you go and ask like, why are you not moving to cloud? Their answer would be that, yeah, we have some security concerns. We have, are you addressing the privacy and security concerns? Well, we are well uh, we are well we are well to do with our existing infrastructure on premise. We are like more secure. The security and the privacy lies in our hand, whereas for the cloud it's like outsourced to some other vendor, and like there is a point of uh, like trust over there on the cloud computing. So we could see at that time the security and privacy was a major roadblock in selling these cloud products to the customers. But now we have come a far way ahead. A lot of security mechanisms have been put in place together. Uh, um, we have multiple authentications. We have token based authentications. Even any file transmission, we have a secure encrypted file transfer between. So everything flows inside the cloud, over and over on the cloud, on the internet, right? So uh, so there have been multiple layers of security have been put it on, and that of course helps in bringing some of the confidence in among the customers. Okay, uh, we have a right security in place, we can of course move it. Another thing is that privacy and regulatory issues. So that's again, so we have all the data moving into cloud. My information, for example, this information, this video conferencing app might be located, I mean, might be routed through some data center which is sitting outside India. So we do have a privacy concern, uh, like how my data is going through to some other country and how it is saved there. Are are is my data is safe at being located in some data center which is outside my country? So those questions have been addressed by new uh, governmental and institutional security measures. For example, this is GDPR, which I would like to highlight here. It's an uh, GDPR. It's an regulation for European Union, where it addresses these. Particularly, it has a particular addressal for this um, cloud-based softwares, uh, or whatever happens over the cloud. Um, I know like what I really don't know like what type of audience I am addressing to. If you really want to know
So we
what
have
yeah.
faculties and UG scholars too, and
Okay.
even industry persons also have registered.
Okay.
Um, so faculty, those who have completed their doctorates also have registered, sir.
Oh,
And
okay.
departments from mechanical, EC, computer science, so respect to all the engineering departments, and even commerce, botany department, so that so they since they need to know about emerging technology trends, they have also registered.
Okay, that's
Mm.
good to very good to know.
Yes.
So to those ones who actually like wondering, like I just started my slide absurd way, directly moving into talking about the cloud. So what exactly is just a brief introduction? What exactly is cloud computing? Is that it is also called a metaphor for internet. Like, so what really happened years ago? We have all the infrastructure or all the data or all the network equipments or the virtualization that is present inside the premises only. For example, if you take a university, the university maintains all the mark sheet, like marks of the students, all the library information, or the pay slips and pay stubs of employees or professors working there. So everything is maintained in their own servers. Okay. This was like, I'm giving an example of on-premise system. So they used to create a own infrastructure. They would put out your own server over there. They would create own virtualization. They would host applications. For example, in universities, you have there would be some time and attendance of professors or the staff members who are coming in and who are taking, for example, how the classes are located. So those applications are there, right? Those are like hosted locally in their university servers. Um, so that was the case. And what was the overhead on that was that, like, all the infrastructure and all the applications, everything has to be maintained. Any upgrades or any disaster, you have to maintain on that. So when we move it to cloud, this all infrastructure, this all softwares, all resides into the data centers, or 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 there are companies who maintain all these behind stuff over the cloud. So you just require internet to just upload and download information. For example, you required fill out your time and attendance. You go and access the internet. You connect to that site, and it's not like having a client server architecture at locally. It happens over the cloud. I mean, you don't know like where I am connecting to. You don't know which server I am connecting to. Every infrastructure, every application is hosted over the cloud. You just have a particular address. You just go open it. You just enter in information, and it gets stored into the cloud. So tomorrow, like for example, the AICT, your head of all the institutions want to access those information. He need not to contact you there. He need not to like reach out to your local university server. It again happens over the cloud. Those guys will access over the internet, connect to cloud. So cloud is something like it's like in the sky. So anywhere, any place you can upload and download information. uh, um, you can access, you have the accessibility for that. So that is cloud. um, so that was a brief introduction on that. um, the cloud has deployment models. You would have heard. So how it is deployed, what are the types of cloud deployment? So I'm going to talk about that. So there are three main. There are, of course, more than that. We have something called community cloud and all, but the major classification lies in private, hybrid, and public cloud. So what is private cloud? um, you will be having a little of confusion between what exactly it's a private cloud and what is. There is a thin demarcation between private cloud and uh, on-premise system. So I will try to um, differentiate that. So what is private cloud? If you have your organization, and your organization wants to um, wants to source the information over the internet, but that applies only to your info, like that will like that like we have these three categories, right? Ownership, size, and access. So I'm talking regarding of ownership. So that all the infrastructure, all the applications, or whatever the data flows to them, it's the ownership is lies within one sort of organization. Okay. You don't share anything, or you share none of the resources to any outside world. So those are private clouds. So that ideally means like hosting a server at hosting a server at your end, and doing virtualization, and hosting an application at your place. So you would ask like what is the difference between then private cloud and on premise? So this private cloud is like adopted by very few of the organization who really like who really keep who really keep the all the data local. So what exactly happens is that they go for this model actually, mm, virtual private cloud. So only the few of the companies who are like who are like well rich enough, they actually host, yeah, their own data centers at their own premise. They do all the virtualization, they do all the disaster recovery, and they do host the applications, or they do host everything as a private cloud. But this really doesn't happen. It will like incur all the cost equivalent to your on-premise system. So there is like no differentiation between the between on-premise system and the private cloud. So what they exactly do is that they they actually outsource the infrastructure uh, to some third party. So all the data center part, or like the data center part, or and the virtualization part, everything is managed by someone else, and they give you a dedicated access to your organization. For example, I am sitting in an organization, so I don't buy servers. Okay, the servers are very costly for me. So I do purchase a subscription uh, of giving me an instance on the cloud, and from, for example, from Amazon. Amazon, we have Elastic Cloud, where they provide the or we have another vendor called Rackspace. So they provide all this infrastructure. So they provided a dedicated line to your organization, and now you host your applications on those clouds, and everything is like private to you only. So this is the most common uh, type of deployment for the private cloud. Nobody opts for a pure private cloud, just because it's like same as it's not same as the on premise, but it incurs the same cost as the on premise. The only difference you get from the on premise than private cloud is that this will be hosted, like you will be able to access your uh, private cloud through internet. um, but your on premise is like you have to connect to your own that organization's network, and then you will able to access it. So there is this type of architecture is like used by very few of the companies who are like rich enough to invest much of the money in making this infrastructure. Then we have public cloud. So public cloud is something like they give access to the whole of the internet. There is no restriction on uh, whom to. There is no restriction for any person, like any geographical area or something. So all the SaaS based applications are like sort of like public cloud. Um, for example, this software which is used to organize a webinar, or for example your Gmail or Google Cloud application. So anyone on the internet is able to access. There is a sort of authentication which authenticates like you are the right person to access that. Then you are like open to access those information. So mostly all the SaaS based applications, or the SaaS based ERPs, they work on this public cloud concept. Because like you really want to be open, like everyone to access it. You don't want to restrict the access to a particular geographical area or something, or particular organization. Then comes this hybrid cloud. Okay. Hybrid cloud, like going by the word, it's like uses uses both private and the public cloud. Uh, the most common use of hybrid cloud is used for we have a particular term called cloud bursting. uh, we use hybrid cloud for particularly for that. For example, like you have some applications, we have some application running on a private cloud, and so private cloud we have you buy infrastructure from a company. uh, I'm talking about virtual private cloud. So you buy infrastructure from a particular company. So uh, so you see a sudden surge in the scalability. Okay. um, you don't expect that you need a sudden surge in the scalability. So what you do is that instead of like again expanding your private cloud, that would be a costly affair. You have to buy again servers, infrastructure in the cloud, and then deploy all the OS layer, everything, and then you have to expand it for your application. Instead of doing that, what exactly the hybrid cloud does is that it's something called cloud bursting. It actually utilizes the public cloud power. It actually utilizes the public cloud space to expand your private cloud. I'll show this. Yeah, this is something here. So you have a set of users accessing the private cloud, and there is a sudden surge, or like you want a more number of people to access your cloud. So there is a like the application. There is an orchestration happens or automatically through the hybrid cloud computing, where you expand from your private cloud to public cloud. So this is the one of the common applications of hybrid cloud, where you see a sudden surge in the scalability, or you want the particular set of users who want like access to the public cloud apart from your private cloud. So there is a merge between the public and the private cloud. So that is called hybrid cloud. Uh, so these are like three deployment models, like how normally the cloud is deployed. Okay. uh, so all these in real world, like these are the concepts you should know, but really like when we see the applications and all this, this has least significance, but you should know what's actually going behind the scenes. So now here service models. So this is like deployment model, and after that how it is like service to the end users. So what it appears to the end users, or how it is like catered to the users, or the one who consumes all the services. So I have this this diagram which actually explains very well. I mean, this is like one single diagram which uh, gives a very good idea of it. So you see, sorry, you see a traditional on-premise system where we have all the layers, right from the networking, virtualization, operating system, middleware. So everything is at your site only, and you have to there would be a dedicated person who actually manages all this at your site. um, Whether it's an upgrade or there is any disaster, you have to manage it. So that's the thing. What you have a better control it for this type of setup on-premise system is that you of course see. So everything resides at your own place. You see, it is a more secure system. You have your own firewall, you have your own security system in place, and you have that. You need not to worry about any regulations. Like if you comply to your local regulations, local governmental regulations, then it is fine. I mean, um, so there is no worry about anything, security, privacy, and all. So everything is in your hand, like whatever you configure or whatever you have. it's that. Now we see all these three are like we are moving into cloud. So this is on premise, and these three are uh, 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 within the subset of cloud. So what infrastructure as a service, what they do is that until the hardware part or until the um, server management, data center management, it is like handled by the vendor company. Um, so this is the what I gave example for the virtual private cloud, right? So you buy a IaaS, infrastructure as a service, for a private cloud, for a virtual private cloud. They give out your data center space. They take care of all the networking, storage, servers, and virtualization. You just talk with them regarding the space, processing power, based on your requirement. You talk to them, and they will provide you all these services. Rest all the right from the operating system to application, uh, it's like it's on your hand. So you buy everything from, for example, in virtual private cloud, you buy all the data center space, everything. Sorry. So you can host your application on that all you manage. So you don't have control over here. You just tell your requirement, what is your required space, what is the required processing power. They pay you out on that, and they give you they give out all those, and you just have to bother about the application and every application, operating system, or those things. Now platform as a service. Now here you see there is again demarcation here. So just the application and the metadata you have to bother about, and rest all is like handled by the vendor. So example of infrastructure as a service, like there are a few companies who give the data centers like Rackspace, what I said, Amazon, Elastic Cloud. So these are the companies like who give infrastructure as a service to the customers. So they are like pioneers in that. So for platform as a service, you you just need to bother about the application only. You need not to know like what server version, whether they are running a Windows server or some Linux server. You need not to worry about that. It's just your application you have to host, and we will see examples in that. For a platform as a service, there is something called Google App Engine, even Facebook Cloud. You have seen many games which you could play on Facebook. So Facebook is actually a cloud application. They have their own database system. They have their own uh, operating system on their own. You need not to bother what operating system Facebook uses. You have to just develop, uh, for example, a game or any application on Facebook platform. You can host it to them. So mostly you could see there are like apps over the Facebook, where like you give some questionnaire and it does some prediction and all. Or there are games you could see, like there are many gaming companies who develop games on hosted on the Facebook. So those are the examples of it. Not only this, that we have Google App Engine, we have Microsoft Azure, where they provide all this up to this place, and you can host .NET applications over there. So this is a common. This is actually uh, uh, yeah, I would say the second most uh, most popular type of service in the cloud. Okay. The third one is software as a service. This is the most popular. Uh, to the enterprise customers, they don't. To the enterprise customers, like for they use all these applications, like they don't want to know all the background thing, whatever happens, these things they are least bothered about it. They want need to get their work done. uh, and nobody cares, like nobody at an enterprise level cares about what really happens. They just bother, is it safe, is their data safe, is all the privacy and the regulatory norms are in compliance. They are just happy with that. So for that, the software as a service comes in to play. For example, any cloud-based applications, or for example, the ERP, which I'm going to talk about. So they're just they're just concerned about how how to use that application. They're not even bothered about like what exactly that like they're just bothered about the application itself. I mean, they're not bothered about what really happens behind, how the application interacts with the data. Is there any database, how the query is done? No, nothing. So they are just bothered about the functionality of the application. Rest all the things are handled by the vendor, and they pay it as a subscription to that vendor. So this is the most kicking in and most commonly used a cloud-based application. Um, so most popular is software as a service. Second, I would say the platform as a service. Infrastructure as a service, yeah, a few of the enterprises do have where they actually require infrastructure. And so these are like for example, at IBM, uh, IBM itself who has provides the infrastructure as a service. So they test out all these AI applications, everything. So they actually require to tweak at the networking, storage, virtualization level. So they have many AI based applications. So for that they use as a purpose. So this is also there, but not as popular as software as a service and a platform as a service. Mm. So these are the example which I told for infrastructure as a service. Rackspace, Azure, they also provide infrastructure. You can buy space at their on Microsoft Azure. IBM software, this I think they don't provide now. I'm not sure about it. We have Amazon Web Services. So Amazon is like they provide platform, as they are like pioneers in providing platform as a service as well as the infrastructure as a service. Platform as a service for Amazon, like platform as a service, you would the best example would be your Alexa devices and all, where mm, uh, where they provide, so they provide a base platform for Amazon, for Alexa, what they call, um, so the APIs for Alexa. Okay. So you could actually write an interactive application which will sit on the Alexa platform, and your Alexa can work on that. For example, you have recently you can actually book your Uber services, Uber or Ola services through Alexa. Could just say, Alexa, hey Alexa, I want to go from here to here, book an Ola cab for me. So how it is that, how is that working? So Amazon is having their own infrastructure. They are providing infrastructure as a service. Of course, they are also providing platform as a service. So on that platform, these Uber people, what they have done, they have written an application which would interact. They have interact with the platform, which is the Alexa platform. So they have their own web services. They have their own APIs through which that the application interacts and responds. So best example for that is that Alexa. Um, so yeah. I am not mentioned here. IBM Bluemix. So IBM also provided this Bluemix server, Bluemix platform as a, platform as a service. Um, this is mainly again used for so we have some applications in IBM like for example, your computer is not working. We have some chat bots there. You need not to go and so there would be some issue with your laptop, so you need not to call the customer service at IBM. This is, I'm telling, for employees. You need not to dial, so that is the last option. So humans are the last option, so you need not to dial the service center for the service or the customer care for fixing your laptop. There would be few um, we have some application hosted on Bluemix where they interact with you dynamically. They diagnose your system and they provide their solution. So mostly like IBM works with these all these AI and uh, this interactive based applications on that on this Bluemix platform. Google App Engine, I have already mentioned that Google provides an platform as a service where they also like have their own database. Uh, you can of course write applications and host to the App Engine platform. Apart from it, we're talking into ERP space, platform as a service. You would have heard of Salesforce, um, which is the leading cloud-based custom relationship management software. So they have this platform as a service where you could develop plugins for that Salesforce app. So Salesforce is like customer relationship management. For example, for example, an Airtel call center working. So Salesforce has this application where they take the query of the customer. So this software manages all the like this customer is from this location and he has this issue facing. So there will be a timeline to it, SLA timeline to it. So this has to be fixed in 8 hours. This has to be fixed in 10 hours. So you can develop plugins for that application. So Salesforce also provided platform as a service. Okay, so basically knowing about cloud, so we need to know about the deployment models and we need to know about the service models. So that's the basic to go into the cloud. So whenever you work on some new cloud application, at least these two basics we should be knowing before working on it. Okay. So are we taking any questions now or Lakshmi?
Uh, yes, sir. If you want to have a break, we can just go for some questions, sir.
Okay. So let me do like that.
Uh,
Let me take a session on. Let me give a brief introduction of this ERP. Then we'll take some 15 minutes to for queries.
sure, sir. Okay. Okay.
Okay, so these are all the basics. Whenever you work on cloud-based application, you should know all these deployment models and the service model. Okay, now coming to the part which I have experience on. So I basically work on a SaaS product. Um, so traditionally, all the ERPs were like on-premise. You have heard of Oracle Cloud, or sorry, Oracle. Um, you would have heard about SAP. I mean, whenever we say ERP, the only name which comes is SAP. That was the very, that of course is very popular term in the ERP space. If you go to Europe and all, so if you go to Europe side, where 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 we have many manufacturing units around Germany and all, so there we go and sell out any ERP based software. So they have the most preference of SAP. So such is the hold of SAP in the European market. And of course, they have been there in that space for around 40 years, 30, 40 years. So, 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 so that was a hold of on-premise ERPs in that space. Um, so Workday around 2010, 12, it kicked off. They actually came up. Uh, I mean, I'm not sure this is the first product or there were already products which were there on cloud which didn't go successful. Uh, but I want to tell the history of Workday is so uh, we have different modules of ERP like customer relationship management. We have human capital management. We have supply chain management. So SAP had all those every modules there. We have something called human capital management. So what is human capital management? Um, I have this. Okay. So all these things, not only all these things, there are many sub parts to it, and there are many other parts to it also. So payroll. So if you take in a company, there would be employees, which is the human capital. Um, so all the management related to the human capital. So what will be there? So you have to take care of his payroll. Let's start from the beginning. You have to open. So for example, you require a uh, you require a job of typist in your organization. So what exactly an organization does is that post for the job. Earlier used to be the days where they used to give in newspapers and all, but now everything is like through LinkedIn. You search for jobs in LinkedIn, right? You search for jobs in job portals. So right from your ERP software, you can actually post the job. It's called job posting. So you say that we have a requirement for typist, and you post that job. That is automatically posted. We have to write interfaces. We have to write programs which actually posts the job automatically. So once you create a job and you say post in your ERP software, it actually posts to LinkedIn. There are some softwares called job boards. So what it exactly does is that once you post that job to that job board, it posts automatically to Naukri, Indeed, what else, Times Job, or all the job seeking sites. It all posts to them automatically. So that job posting is a part of human capital management. Then then a candidate goes and applies his resume, applies to that job portal. You get all the resume, right? So what here comes in place is the recruitment part. That is also handled by ERP. You have the option to schedule interviews. You have the option for writing workflows. Like the first round would be uh, of telephoning. The second round would be of face to face. The third round would be GD. That you can define in your ERP. Okay, that is called recruitment. Once the candidate go clears all these rounds, he has to be onboarded, right? So that is called onboarding. That is supported by ERP. So onboarding means like you get his records verified. You get his past work employment verified. You make him to sign any NDA, non-disclosure agreement. You make him sign the contract agreement, everything. So these all comes in the onboarding. That is handled by a human capital management. Then he goes into the system, get hired, right? So hiring. Then after that, you should collect all his personal details, and for example, there should be emergency contact. In case anything happens to the employee, you have to contact his emergency contact. So that information is stored. That is handled by human capital management ERP. then he has to go and opt for any benefits. For example, the company would be providing free cab facilities, so he can go and opt for that benefit. The company might be providing you with free insurance schemes, life insurance, or the group health insurance. So he can, so benefits, right? So benefits comes here. His compensation information is stored in ARP, right? Time tracking. So every day he is coming in, he is clocking in at 7 o'clock. He's going out. He's leaving the organization at 6 o'clock. He's working 8 hours a day. That is tracked in that ERP. Time tracking. He goes and applies for leave. He goes for an appointment for sabbatical leave from say 4 or 6 months. All the approval of the leaves, it's handled by ERP. This human capital management ERP. Talent management. So his appraisals come. He gets rewards. All those are handled in the ERP. Okay, performance. So his performance is evaluated. Reporting. Suppose a manager wants, for example, the CEO wants how many female employees are working, how many employees are like above the age group of 50. So like they want analytics and reporting, how many employees are like paid with the wages this much. So these are like analytics and reporting work for a large type of mid-size and large type of organization. It's like it plays a very significant value. That is handled by this ERP. So all this thing, if we go and write software for each and every organization, it will be very tedious, and I mean it will be like non-standard way, right? So that comes the like that's the place where the ERP comes into place, and the ERP handles everything. ERP is a standard, I would say, like standardization of the software or the process, where you have the option to configure it, uh, see, the payroll, the leave and absence would be same for every company. Like every company would be paying the employees. There is no company in the world who is not paying for their employees. Every company would be like doing the performance, right? But the point here is that the procedure would be different for different companies. For example, the performance in a company would be accessed at only one level. His manager would be evaluating him. Okay, he is working hard, fine, 5 rating. But in another organization, his manager has to evaluate, his manager's manager would have to evaluate. So the process would be a bit different, but all these modules are like literally same for nearly every company. So that's where the ERP comes in place, and ERP has this role of like standardization of your product, of a particular product. uh, okay, so till now, till 2010, this was like very popular on premise system. So because all these are like very sensitive data, the compensation data is very sensitive. If you go and see personal information, in US and all, your SSN number, your even your like age, everything is like very sensitive information. They don't take all these for a toss. I mean, they are very strict in your personal information. It need not to be leaked. Then it should not go anywhere. If you are giving it to a company, that should be you should be assured that that resides with the company only. They should not sell it. There are very strict, stringent rules for that. Okay. So all these were maintained in an on-premise ERP. They were very happy with their security. But the thing is that uh, it was not utilizing the advantages of the cloud. So one employee who was working with on-premise ERP system, that was actually called PeopleSoft. So this was an independent product. um, so this PeopleSoft, they were doing on-premise system. Their main competitors were SAP, but the PeopleSoft was like a pro in human capital management. SAP also had human capital management, but this was more popular product. So employee working in the PeopleSoft company actually thought about that. Why won't we go for cloud? Okay, there will be many hurdles, but we would overcome it. Eventually, they left the company. Oracle acquired PeopleSoft. So they were like eyeing into this space. So they acquired two products called JD Edwards and PeopleSoft. So Oracle acquired it. They thought that on-premise will be a still niche system. So was SAP thinking. They had no idea that this whole system could go into the cloud. So the founders Anil Bhusri and there was a guy called David Duffield. They actually founded out this cloud-based. Why can't an ERP go into the cloud? So they actually took the risk of moving an ERP to the cloud. So after that, there was initial roadblocks like no one was accepting. There were only few mid-sized company who came forward. Okay, we will go into the cloud. But I think I should have put a slide on advantages of the cloud. So the main advantage of the cloud is that it's like when the ERP went into the cloud, right? It came as a subscription based service. Okay, it came as a SaaS. For example, a company which is like running an on-premise server, okay, which is company running an on-premise server, they have to incur a huge expense in their expenditure to maintain the servers, to upgrade their application. So PeopleSoft was that they have around, I think, yearly upgrade. To upgrade into one version to another version was a very hectic activity. It like it goes like a project. Okay. Um, but look at the advantage of being in cloud. Okay, you don't have to pay. You don't have to invest much, right? Yearly, you have to pay a subscription fee. That, of course, you can add it into your company expenditure. It will be a yearly fixed fee instead of like like ambiguous figure on like the amount required to maintain a server, the amount required to um, upgrade and all. Instead of that, it's an advantage you pay a subscription to it, right? For example, I give an example. uh, the MS Office, right? It will be very hard like to pay 15,000 as to buy an MS Office software, right? If they give it for a subscription, like for example, if they give it for a subscription like 100 rupees for a year of you can use 100 you pay 100 rupees and use MS Office for 1 year. So what will be our choice? Like we will go for a subscription base, even though like on a longer run it will be like uh, uh, there will be like it will be exceeding like that 15,000 amount. But think in terms of like this: you bought your MS Office 2000 version 2020 for 15,000 now, but after 15 years the latest version will be 2025, and you will be like after 15 years it will be 2035, right? But you will be still sitting with the version 2020. You have the option of like you got an upgrade every year, right? So that's what like Office 365 is doing. They have put Office on the cloud and they are selling it as a subscription. Earlier, it used to be a standalone, and like it was a headache upgrading your Office every year. Every year there would be versions, new and newer version would be coming, and at some point of time, they would say, okay, this version is not supported. We won't support any security updates for that. So that was the advantage here. They took it to the cloud. They gave them yearly twice tension-free upgrades. I mean, everything happens over the background. You like over the night it gets upgrade. Next day morning you see you are on the newer version of the ERP. So not with the PeopleSoft, you have to down the server for 2-3 days. You have to perform upgrade activity. So that two were the most advantage. They fixed out the security issue. They have brought in many authentications. So that those were the like questions like, is this secure? Is it regulatory compliant? Or they fixed all these security and all. So how they fix that security? So that comes a point, right? So whenever people ask, like, hey, cloud is not secure, you have that security and privacy. For example, I am a consultant with Workday. uh, I develop a integration. It's like a platform as a service. I develop a code for integrating Workday with some other vendor. Okay, think of like that. I have written a code. I have to deploy it in the cloud, right? So what Workday has process in place is that I have to follow all the standard procedures. There would be no there is a set of standard procedures to operate that. Okay, I have to follow that. They will have a review called um, DA review, where they will evaluate your approach. There are two reviews: approach review and DA review. The approach review will they will the consultants working in Workday will evaluate my code whether it is safe to be deployed in the cloud. I am not writing any virus, or I am not writing any ill developed software which will leak any privacy information, or which will do some any leak when deployed to the cloud. They will thoroughly check that, then only they will give a sign off to be deployed in the cloud. So such a way they address all these security concerns. So at Workday, if I have to deploy my integration, or or the code which would be deployed in the cloud, has to pass approach review, has to pass DA review. Once I pass all these to review, and there are tools to evaluate that. So you would say that what human errors could occur, like how will that guy will be evaluating your code just by seeing it? That could be human error. He might like oversee some of the errors, right? There are tools to check my code, whether it is like safe, whether it utilizes proper resources. Okay, there would be like a problem of like, I deploy a code, there would be a memory leak. So cloud is a limited resource, right? For example, a company buys a limited resource on the cloud. It works on like, for example, 5 gigahertz of processing power. So if my code gets leaked out and it occupies all the 5 gigahertz, so the software will be down. So it also checks for any memory leaks and any performance related issues. There should not be any performance related issue. So such procedures are in place. So after all these, my code will be deployed to the cloud. Okay. So this actually lured many customers. So within like, it started around 2010. This is a very small, very small list of customers which is using this ERP. But actually, this is something like, there are around 3,000 customers. I just picked randomly this while preparing this slide. But if you see, there are like very big customers on the cloud, on Workday. For example, Airbus. I want to take the example of Airbus here. They were actually on Success Factors. They were actually on SAP. They had very customization, they're very big customization done. So they got recently migrated into Workday. So such is the like adoption rate of this SaaS based cloud ERP. Okay. So I want to give like how typically like, this will vary from every SaaS based application, but I will give with respect to Workday. So Workday UI is in the form of HTML5 and CSS. We don't have any we don't have any control to customize this, because it's an ERP. Like, you cannot control the UI. Of course, like, you can put logos of your company and all, but you cannot customize the basic structure of forms and all. That's the basic rule of ERP. Like, you cannot change the integrity of the ERP. Earlier, like, they used some earlier they used Flash based UI. They used Adobe Flash, but later they moved into HTML5 and CSS, which is now like the latest uh, UI. I mean, what you would say, the latest in UI development. Here, the Workday doesn't have any database. So traditionally, ERPs, for example, the PeopleSoft was based on Oracle Server. Uh, uh, was based on Oracle Server. Here, the data is in the form of objects, and that too very in hierarchical objects. For example, there is a worker. Okay, so workers personal information. So every object. So it's like a relational what do you call, a relational object database. Okay. We have the data stored in objects, and every object we have objects. We have relation between the objects, between two objects. For example, um, what do you say? Okay, within address object, we have address line 1, postal code, state, everything, right? So address is an object which has like which has child objects like address line 1, address line 2, address line 3, uh, pin code, and state. Now this address object is related to worker object, so every worker will have address, right? So this is the relation between the worker and the address. So worker and phone number, and phone number you can have STD code and all. So like that, there is a relation data object based database um, with with parent child hierarchy. So it's like uh, relational hierarchical object. Okay. And yeah, this we have something called business processes in Workday. So what I call, as I mentioned earlier, like for example, the leave process would be different for different company, but at end of the day, every company will have leave process, right? So we have something called business process, where we can configure like how that transaction will work. For example, so business process work like that. For example, there is a button on the page called hire. Okay. For example, there is a form or page which we have designed, where you give leave start date, leave end date, and your reason for leave. Okay. So I'm starting from August 1 to August 10, and my leave reason is like I'm going for vacation. Now when I click when I click submit leave, right? So there is a function behind. So normally in legacy applications, we write functions behind it, right? On click, we write a function. Here, what we write is a business process. So on the submit leave would be a business process. There we will tell that while you submit this form, send this for approval to manager. If manager approves, send it for manager +1. That business requirements we can write it actually. Okay. So this is something very unique to this ERP. So no ERP is like designed like this. Uh, I'm telling all this because this is something unique. This is something unique done with the respective ERP, and you don't know like how famous it has become in all these 8 years, right? It has like, whenever you see cloud-based um, applications, you hear you would have definitely heard Salesforce. That is of course like one of the best in customer relationship management. But after that, if you ask me, which is like on ERP, which is the most famous one, I would say Workday, because such is the reach and such is the adoption by the customers. That's because of these unique features. Okay. And you would have asked me like how the reporting and all. So I told about data, like how it is stored as it's something called relational hierarchical object. So in earlier ERP, it was a SQL query to find 100. To find, for example, you have to find a list of employees uh, with age group greater than 75, 50. So you would have to write a SQL query, select actually from this table. So all this will be stored in a table in a relational database, right? So you have to write a query for that. But see the advantage of here of storing it as objects. So you need not write a query at all. You have to just say, for example, as these are objects, right? So objects are like, so you need not write a query at all. You have to just say like, pull all the employees. You have to put a filter called age and just give 75. So age is your object and 75 is the value stored in that object. You just say age and 75, 50. So it will like less than, and you put an operator over there. So less than age object 75. It pull all the employees with less than 50. Okay. So reporting is very easier in this type of object. And this has like earlier used to be like for a particular ERP there will be a SQL Server guy who is like very experienced in SQL Server guy who would be generating reports. There will be a reporting person who will be experienced in SQL Server. But for reporting, you would be surprised, the end users themselves are able to generate reports. So it has like reduced significant effort of like maintenance of the ERPs. Okay. Now an end user can generate a report. Just they have to select few of the parameters and create that report and just run it. Okay. Okay. I think I put out this as very last. So okay. So SaaS based. So this I have already discussed. I'm just going through if I have not missed any point here. Scalability, no overhead of expense on upgrade. Yeah. Okay. So one of the another advantage is that there are availability of templates for integrating. Okay. So for example, your Workday has to integrate with Microsoft Active Directory system. Okay. Or so it can actually speak through APIs and push and pull extract data. So that's the advantage of here. Okay. This I explained at the DA review and all. Okay. Okay. The integration layer, how the data flows between this ERP system and to other. So most of the cloud-based applications, like you go for any cloud-based application, so it will be all through web services and REST API. REST API is used for like accessing small amount of data, pulling. It's not recommended to for any bulk extraction. Web services, we have inbound as well as outbound. You can push and pull data into the ERP system. We have outbound where we pull data. It's like through GET service, and we have to push it into Workday. We have put services available. So this is very common among all the cloud-based ERP systems. You have web services and REST API. So REST API is used for very small data, just a query, small queries and all. Okay. So this is my personal. I don't like this is what I felt actually working with all these years with an ERP. It's not like standard. I picked it somewhere, or but what I felt working on a cloud-based ERP and comparing with the existing customers who are actually on-premise. So less customization, like ERP doesn't allow much of the customization, but if you see all the old on-premise ERP, there were very many very deep customization. For example, the Airbus customer, which I have talked about, right? They built their system for over a period of 5 years. Their on-premise system, they took 5 years to build their system. Such were the local laws. They have built it very complex. But while they came into Workday, right? So they actually like threw half of the customizations. They said, why you need all these customization? Go for standard procedure. So one way it is like you actually don't require customization, but comparison with on-premise and cloud, we have less customization on ERP system. Okay, this I felt a lot. There is a limitation on the resource utilization. So on-premise system, there was like you could run a 1 hour, 2 hour query running store procedure for running like big store procedures or anything. But while on cloud, every resource utilization counts. Even like few of the queries need to be optimized to the perfection because everything is utilized, right? You pay for a subscription and they give you a limited amount of resource. This is the utilization power you are being provided. So any platform as a service code or any integration code or any code view, right? The cloud application has to be fine-tuned to the perfection, and they actually don't support the resource search or the data search. That's the problem. So you have to be very careful on the tuning of the integration. Otherwise, like they have their automatic procedure. So for example, you are extracting some information from the cloud, and the data is coming for more than 2 hours. So it has automatic abort system. So if you are extracting some data for more than 2 hours, they said no, go. It will kill that service. So that happens in cloud and Workday. They will like there is a like limited resource. One way, like it will make you to fine tune the application to the perfection. Another way, you will feel that like there is so much of restrictions on the resources and the amount of data utilization. And I also felt like there is a when the large customers on the cloud-based ERP, right? For example, Bank of America or some of the customers like that, they have a very big hard time in managing the resources. Like they have plenty of applications or the integrations running on their system, and when they have to be very time cautious, like at a time, like it cannot be like that 10 integrations are running, because all the 10 will utilize your resource and your application will be like very too slow or down. So for large scale customers, it's still a question mark, but it has been like 90% fine, but the 10% we feel that there is a crunch over there. I think just 2 more slides. Okay, the business intelligence. So as we are on cloud, we are like now the cloud applications are like there is a more of fusion things going on, like mixing business intelligence with cloud based ERP and mixing artificial intelligence analytics. So we have many these other domains which are like merged into cloud based, and they are giving very surprising results. For example, in Workday, they have achieved such analytics. For example, your organization has 10,000 employees. The system can actually guess which employee will more prone to go out. Like it can predict who can put down papers in next 3 months. So such as the like analytics system have been developed till now. not only analytics being used in this way, it has been also like, for example, for the performance, for the example, the manager, while giving the pay hike to the employees, the analytics present in such a beautiful way. For example, employee is drawing 15,000 salary, and we have to give him hike. So it will calculate his years of experience. It will take analytics from the market for that years of experience. How much is the market rate? Okay, how his performance has been in the last 3 quarters. Has it been doing well, or he is like underperformer? So everything is calculated, and analytics would be present. It will really help for the manager to analyze those analytics and give him the right pay, right? So this is like a very innovative method, and those ERPs, those were not available in all these on-premise. So for while in cloud, so they are utilizing these business intelligence analytics, all these stuff to do such predictive analysis and all. So think of a scenario like this where the manager is really like assisted with all these, like how much he have to give importance to that employee regarding that play. And this is something Workday, like they are like ramping up for as a platform as a service. This is something new which is like introduced in 2019. So we have already like integration services, which is like sort of platform as a service, but they have now given a full-fledged Extend, Workday Extend. They have named the product as Workday Extend. So they have presentation service where we can actually design forms. So this an example of this I would like to give, which recently one of my team members have developed. So we have this COVID time, right? Um, so what they have developed in this platform as a service is that we have already an ERP. We have all the workers information. For example, a company A which has 50,000 employees spread, few employees working in Bangalore, Chennai, Pune, Hyderabad, right? Now they have developed an application. So every this ERP is accessible over the cloud. So every employee can access this ERP. Now what they have done is that they have developed a COVID extension to this ERP, sort of extension, I would say, where the employees could key in like how safe are they, how access to the internet, access to the work, or are they able to utilize 8 hours a day in a day, or are they billed to an important client? How 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 important is that person to the particular project and all? So those information, it's gathered through that form, then analytics run on it, and it gives a dashboard to the manager, like he can actually make an analysis on the resource, whether this resource is like, how critical is this resource, should I split up the work, should I have a backup for that employee? So it's like a COVID, it is developed for COVID, but you can actually think of that, you can actually utilize that for any flood related, for example, any natural calamities also across an organization. For example, one of the location like Kolkata, which is flooded, so you can actually gather that information, and you can do your contingency plans on the organization. So yeah, there are many uses for platform as a service. Many innovative uses are coming up as a platform as a service in the industry, and of course our industry loves getting all these innovative products. Okay, that's all from my end, and I know I should have given
So we have
yeah.
questions, participants, very so many questions. So Mr. Tirumurthy has asked, what are skill sets required cloud computing? Can you suggest any web resources to learn cloud computing?
Yeah, skill set. See again, if you see skill set, So you take that service cloud, you take that, think of that service cloud, sorry, this slide. Okay. So cloud actually resides in these three services, right? So for platform as a service, so if you are like good at um, good at writing applications, you have a very good knowledge in data structures, and you have interest to that. You have a very interest on writing applications. You can of course pursue this. Okay, start with developing applications, small applications with the free cloud such as Google App Engine. Explore like these example I gave, right? Alexa, writing Alexa, utilizing Alexa for all these applications. That's open source. Like you can download all these APIs and try starting write an application. If your application gets approved, you could be paid for that right away from there. But this is a very niche where the core developers has very good opportunity. So not even the one who is starting as a developer, but also the other developers who have already Java developers or .NET developers can think of writing applications, writing innovative applications with this. One thing from the industry standpoint, I would say that be strong in the data structures and all these basics, programming basics. Okay, so that way you can like excel here. Software as a service, this mostly resides with the ERP, and you don't have the privilege of working on a ERP beforehand. Like you don't actually get an opportunity to work on a ERP unless and until you go into a company, because ERP is like they're not open source or something you can start trying to work upon. You have to work with a company who has that ERP license and all. So this is something like when you go into an industry that only you can have your hands upon. This is the sad part of it. And but of course, like this is a good part where you can, where actually the college grads and who are like budding architects or who wants to develop softwares can try their hands on platform as a service.
Yes, sir. And Mr. Rani Chandra, Ms. Rani Chandra has asked, what are the database services? Is it different from, that is DAAS is different from SAAS?
Mm-hmm.
What are the database services? Whether DAAS is different from SAAS?
Database as a service. Okay. See, I could think of two. So database as a service, I could think of in two ways. Okay, one at the software as a service level. Okay, for example, I talked about Workday ERP, right? So it's actually a source system, source database system. So what resides in that ERP is that you have all the worker information right from your date of birth, age, and your years of experience, your current pay, everything resides in that software. I'm taking an example, okay? So data is like available as a service here, right? Actually, data is available as a service at this layer. You can utilize the data to any third-party systems. I told you about web services, right? Where you can actually push and pull. You have database residing it. You have database available as a service. Through web services, you can push and pull on that data to feed into any third-party system. For example, um, think of any mobile app. Okay, think of any mobile app which you have analytics in place. Okay, that actually places some analytics and give you some results. Okay, so you can feed this database which is available as a service to that app which uses like analytics. Okay, then you can run analytics on the database as a service, and you can produce some good results or provide a dashboard to it. So, okay, that's how like all these uh, all the last one I gave an example of this COVID thing, right? So that happens on that one. It actually comes as a platform as a service only, but I'm saying as software as a service because that is occurring on ERP, right? But if you really see the architecture, database is as a service is actually a platform as a service.
Yes, sir. And Mr. Tirumurthy has asked, what would be the risk in having human capital management locally versus in cloud?
uh, can you please repeat that? What is the best way to have either locally or in cloud, right?
Yes, whether only the data security is the main point or any other advantage, or what would be the risk? Risk in
Oh,
having the human capital.
okay. So advantage, it is available through the cloud. For think of this now current situation, right? So think of as a human capital management uh, at a on-premise system. So in this COVID levels, what you have to do, you have to connect to your company's VPN, then access all these. For example, you have to apply leave, then you have to connect to your company VPN and then apply leave over there. Then, but think of having an advantage over the cloud. Everything is access available to the over the internet, right? And of course, like the security measures are now actually better handled. Now we have multiple authentications. Now they have authentications like um, they have IP based authentication, they have key pass authentication, they have uh, now sending OTP and token based authentication system. Like there are multiple ways of authenticating you to the cloud. So security is now no longer an issue. That's what I feel, and most of the people feel in the cloud. Because if still security was the issue, nobody would have gone into the cloud. And I would like to give an example, like Workday actually provides finance also. I told you about human capital management, but actually they have finance product too. So finance is a very, very sensitive data. Nobody in world, any company exposes their financial data. They only do it to the auditing companies, that too with all the agreements in place. We have seen customers like Singapore government agency, Singapore Municipal Corporation, as adopting to that financial data over the cloud. Of course, they are using some advanced security for that, special security for that, uh, but they are very keen on moving into cloud. So security is no longer an issue. We have definitely advantage of using it over the cloud than using in on-premise. On-premise is a very age old. I mean, think of this world of internet and such a situation where all are working remotely and all are working on a scattered places. On-premise is never a solution for that. So everyone is moving to cloud just for some reasons like this. Yeah.
Yes, sir. And Mr. Vivaram Veeraraghavu has asked where we are using IaaS, PaaS, and SaaS in real world for
Okay.
data.
IAS. Okay. I would actually give an example for each. I think that will answer your question. For software as a service, it's a very common. All your Gmail. Think of all the. I will give an examples. Okay. Software as a service, all your Gmail applications, all your iCloud on your iPhone. Okay. This webinar Jam, the software you are using is actually a SaaS software. Okay. So these are like software as a service. Okay. um, Platform as a service. Okay. Platform as a service, I gave you the example of Alexa. they actually have their own servers. They provide their APIs or the platform to you to develop interface on it. So, for example, I gave Uber developing an app engine, or Uber developing an app software for Alexa. So you say, "Hello Alexa," and book an Uber for me from here to here. It will book it. So the Amazon actually provided Alexa web services exposed to you. You actually developed a software residing on the Alexa, right? That's the platform as a service. Okay.
Yes, sir.
You have no visibility for the hardware. You don't have no visibility on which database they are using. Everything is inside. You are actually concerned only on the software. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Here,
And
yeah, and infrastructure as a service, it's purely like uh, these are like mostly used in a few of the enterprise customers. Not the real day-to-day customers use IaaS. For example, IBM uses IaaS for hosting their AI applications. I mean, for running everything. So they have tuning right from the base. They have tuning on the servers. They have tuning on their virtualization. You would have heard about IBM Watson. It's an AI bot which actually helps in doing surgeries and all, real-time surgeries. So they have all these uh, right from the base, everything in their control to fine-tune that application, fine-tune it.
yes, thank
Yeah.
you, sir. And Ms. Shruti has asked whether security will be an issue in cloud computing.
Yes, like it has a taboo in moving to cloud. Comparing with on-premise, whenever you say cloud, the 2 points come over there: security and privacy. But now I feel we have come a lot way ahead in fixing that. Even if you check, if I put out that information, I think I didn't put it. So most of the like the human errors, like which lead to, say, like most of the security is due to human errors in cloud. And even though like they have it has been identified as a human error, like there is no like uh, so we have moved a lot way ahead in that in fixing out the security. We have I told you right earlier also, like we have multiple authentication in place. We have many regulations in place, like I gave this example of GDPR and everything. So with such a great security, evolving security we are building on the cloud based applications and cloud based infrastructure, it's like we are way ahead than on premise. A recent study which I have put in the slide says that there are, like the on premise is like more vulnerable than cloud, because in cloud we have put more layers of security, and like we are concerned about security and we are putting more and more layers of security to it. And I don't see any like security a concern now for moving to cloud right now.
Yes, sir. So we'll take up the last question, sir. Ms. Revati Devikan has asked, how important is the platform as service and how buffer is used in Amazon Web Service?
uh, for your first question, like platform as a service, so I told you right, I would like to put the platform as service at the second place. Just for my concern is that like most of the enterprise customers, they actually worried about their business transaction. They don't actually want like much of the tuning. For example, when an enterprise customer has to do some video conferencing, they go into the market, check for all the features, they buy as a software as a service, and they do their job. There are very less customers who say that no, I want this software as a service, I want to have it on my own with more customization, with more fine tuning, there are very less customers. So software as a service is the like foremost choice of the enterprise customers. Okay, platform as a service is also a choice. I would say is secondary than software as a service. So these come in place for all these AI extensions. There are like this is also evolving. For example, I gave an example of Alexa, Amazon web services, right? So Azure. So all these your Azure, like you can actually develop .NET applications deploy on Windows Azure. So there are many companies running all the local applications on Azure platform. So this is also a equivalent one, and I would say secondary to software as a service. That's all. And your second question, like, what's the buffer offered by um, Amazon Web Services? I think it actually based on the pricing. I think, if I'm correct, they have a pricing for different um, uh, different power, for different what you call the resource and the power utilizations. If I understood your question correctly, so it has different pricing for different use. But for software as a service, you don't have the control over it. That's the problem. That's the problem I highlighted. So here, platform as a service, you can of course go and buy some better um, like, even though it's like um, managed by vendor, you can go ahead and buy a better platform for them. There would be I think there would be different plans for them to build the application on.
And most
So
of the participants have asked like what kind of tools they have to learn when they want to start as a beginner to learn about cloud or work in cloud. Any suggestions regarding tools and
yeah,
software?
check out this Google App Engine and Amazon Web Service. Most of them use like even like Google App Engine, all like they support many languages, even from C++ to C Sharp to Java. So it's actually language independent now. So for platform as a service, you can actually develop any application on any language and can deploy it. You can actually develop your .NET application and deploy it in a Microsoft Azure.
Yes.
So it has become mostly a language independent.
Yes. So thank you, sir. On behalf of Chennai Institute of Technology, we thank you for spending your valuable time for us. And definitely, I hope the participants would have got the idea about cloud computing and you shared all your real-time industrial experience about the cloud-based ERP also. So thank you very much, sir, and hope to connect even future.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Rashmi.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for giving me opportunity to interact with the students. Yeah, thank you.
Please also, sir. Faculty is also today attended. Yes. And participants, kindly fill the attendance link that has been sent in the chat box, and even I have mailed you for day one. So you have to fill the attendance link which has been sent to your mail, and you can fill it only once. Okay, that is enough. And you please kindly fill that within 4 p.m. today. Okay, so after 4 p.m. we won't get the responses. And for tomorrow's session, so again I'll be mailing you the session link to you through your mail, and even in the WhatsApp group I will just post the session joining link. So no need to worry. So every time, every day, for every session, I'll be posting the session joining link. Okay, so no worries about that. So thank you, participants. We'll meet tomorrow.